welcome to Sportsnite. I'm Haley Jatakis here with Connor Baechler and David Woodruff, and we're here for your March Madness reset. Guys, a lot went down the last few weeks.
That it did.
Yeah.
It's been a wild tournament. It's been both kind of a normal, less wild tournament, and then it got wild.
Yeah.
So it's been the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
We had some blowouts, some close games too. So
yeah,
I think that was fun.
And some upsets. What's been the biggest surprise of the tournament so far, David?
So my biggest surprise of the tournament so far is a little bit of an obvious choice. They're the highest seeded team remaining, and that's the Auburn Tigers. They came in after wrecking Tennessee in the SEC championship, beating them by 20 points. They were hot, but they had a real nail-biter in the first round against New Mexico State. They did everything in their power to lose that game, but New Mexico State had an open three to win that game. Air ball, classic New Mexico State basketball, and Auburn moved on. Since then, they've really been rolling, and they've been relying on the offense led by Bryce Brown and Jared Harper. They're a team that likes to bomb threes. They shoot threes at a huge percentage of their total shots. And at the other end, they play underrated defense. They actually lead the nation in steal rate, and they're 5th in block percentage. So they're an exciting team to watch. They bomb threes, get blocks and steals on the other end. By far the most entertaining team to watch left in the tournament. Next up for them is the fun-killing Virginia defense. So we'll see whether the fun and games of an Auburn offense can overcome the boring, methodical Virginia defense. But the Auburn Tigers have been my surprise of the tournament so far.
Connor, what about you?
Yeah, my word is going to be Blue Bloods, and I'm surprised. We like to look at the stars all the time, right? Duke has Zion Williamson. Kentucky has P.J. Washington. You got UNC with a guy like Kobe White, who we'll see playing in the pros very, very soon. But what do these guys have in common? None of them made it to the Final Four. And you got classic basketball schools like Gonzaga, Villanova. We don't see them this year. So I'm very, very surprised that there are no Blue Bloods left around. We got UVA, who's been a powerhouse the last couple of years, but this is their first Final Four since 1984. Texas Tech, Auburn have never been to a Final Four before. If you live around the Mitten State, if you're around Michigan, you might consider Michigan State to be a Blue Blood, but they've only won one title back in 2000. So I think when you think of traditional Blue Bloods, the Kansases, the UNCs, the Kentuckys, the teams that Auburn, as you mentioned, took down, that's what's really most surprising to me. No more Blue Bloods.
Yeah, you both had good points. Those Auburn games were crazy to watch. They took down UNC. Thanks, bracket. But I mean, Connor, you do have a good point. A lot of Blue Bloods, the big basketball schools, aren't even really in it.
Yeah.
So I have to give that one to Connor.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Okay, guys. What was the biggest X factor?
All right.
Who's your MVP?
For this one, we have to pour one out because he's no longer in the tournament anymore. But it's going to be a guy that I said to look out for at the beginning, Carson Edwards, Purdue. This guy was phenomenal. Scored 26 points against Old Dominion in the first round. All right. 42 points against Villanova, complete blowout for Purdue. Then followed it up with 29 against Tennessee. They had to hold down the lead, upset the 2 seed, continue on to the Elite Eight. And then 42 points in a losing effort against UVA. That game was phenomenal. People were stunned to see that Purdue couldn't hold on at the very end when they had Virginia shooting free throws down by 2 points. Missed free throw, kicked out. They couldn't make it happen. But what we saw was Carson Edwards putting on a complete display. Steph Curry shots from all over the court, draining threes, shooting at an incredible percentage. And we saw Purdue lose in heartbreaking fashion, but Carson Edwards put them on his back, carried them to the Elite Eight, almost to the Final Four, and he was my MVP of this tournament.
David, who is your MVP?
Yeah, Carson Edwards was a good pick. He really tore up my bracket and put it in flames because every shot he took against Tennessee went in. It was unbelievable. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route with my tournament MVP so far, and if you've listened to this show, you can probably say it with me because I've talked about this man every time. Jarrett Culver of Texas Tech. The guard/wing, lengthy, defensive, gritty presence has been the catalyst for a deep Final Four run for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. He has led Texas Tech in scoring every game this tournament, including putting up 22 against the elite Michigan defense and 19 against Gonzaga in what was an incredibly incredibly fun game to watch, just back and forth action. And he's been the linchpin of this defense, which has been stunning throughout the tournament. I mean, we saw what they did against Michigan. They sucked the fun out of basketball. 18 points in the first half for Michigan, that was almost an all-time low for a half in a tournament game. And then against Gonzaga, a team that was scoring in the high 80s on average all season, they held them to just 69 points, so well below their season average. And he's only improved his already sky-high draft stock. I would be shocked if he doesn't go in the top 5 of the NBA draft. Jarrett Culver has been my tournament MVP so far.
It's a great pick. He's been total NBA prospect, just emerging in his sophomore year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Carson Edwards he did so well.
Yeah.
Watching that Purdue-Tennessee game, he really stood out. But I'm going to have to go with David, that Texas Tech team, and Culver leading it. I mean, it was tough to watch it as a Michigan student, but they really did. He really did. So, guys, what do you think is the biggest X factor so far?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit of a different route with this one, just like Connor picked Blue Bloods for his initial response. I'm going to choose experience for my X factor in the Final Four. And the reason I say that is because 3 of the 4 teams that we still see left in the tournament are just so inexperienced. Virginia has not reached the Final Four since the 1980s. Auburn and Texas Tech, this is their first one each. None of their coaches have coaching experience in the Final Four. None of Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard, none of those guys have ever coached in the Final Four. They don't exactly know what it's like. And the X factor is Tom Izzo in Michigan State, in my opinion. Although not a lot of their players have experience with deep Final Four runs, the coaching staff does. Izzo won that tournament back in 2000. He's been to the Final Four numerous times. He knows what it takes to win in the big spotlight. He really has the X factor going forward because he's really the only one who's been there before and knows how bright the lights are at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good take. I'm going to go more specific on this one, and I like Auburn three-point shooting to be the X factor. And you kind of touched on it with your first point. The big surprise is Auburn this year. And, man, could they light it up. They shot 39% in that first game against New Mexico State. Kansas, 43% from three-point shooting, 46% against UNC. And then they fell a little bit back down to 30% when they played Kentucky, and we saw them trailing against Kentucky. I thought the magic had run out. But if you shoot close to 50% from 3, and as you pointed out, a majority of their shots are coming from 3, then it doesn't matter how good your defense is, you're just not going to be able to keep up with that. So I think we're going to find out how far Auburn can go based on this three-point shooting. They don't have that star anymore in Chuma Okeke. He got hurt. They're kind of inspired by this injury, but they're going to have to rely even more on the 3-ball because he's a forward who actually scored down low for them. So that's what I'm going to go with. I think one thing's for sure, they're going to play tough defenses. UVA, one of the best in the country every single year. Texas Tech, we've hit it already. #1 defense this year. So if their shots are going in, they're going to win. If they're not going in, they're out. Yep. So I think that's like a clear X factor for me in the Final Four.
Yeah, both of you had some great points. I mean, this is a tough one because experience always comes into play.
Right.
I mean, Tom Izzo has a lot of experience. He's a great coach. So, but then we all know teams that are hitting their threes and they're making their shots.
Yeah, something's got to give, right?
Right. Yeah, that kid at Villanova national championship last year.
DiVincenzo.
Yes. He was hitting his threes, and we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
So I think, Connor, I'm going to have to go with that one.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay.
Comeback time.
Hey, got to get this one.
So, guys, the big question. Who do you think is going to win the national championship?
I'll start. I think that I'm going to roll with Auburn's three-point shooting in the Final Four game. I think they're going to take down Virginia. They'll just hit their shots. Virginia's going to play good interior defense, but Auburn still riding this momentum they've had after beating teams like UNC, Kansas. I think they get into the final, and I think they're going to meet Michigan State. It's going to be a good one. I thought the team that met Texas Tech, I thought it would be Duke, Texas Tech, and I thought by then Duke would be rolling and it would be over. But now it's Michigan State and Texas Tech, and I don't know. Michigan State's offense is they've had guys step up, Goins and Cassius Winston and McQuaid. I'm going to roll with them in the final. it comes down to what we said, 3-point shooting versus experience. And guess what? I'm going back on my word, and I'm taking experience on this one. I think Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans are the national champions come Monday night. So we'll see.
David, who do you have winning?
Definitely a bold move to pick Michigan State on
Yeah.
the site of a Michigan University
tough.
network. But hey, you pick with your head, not your heart. Speaking of that, I'm going to do the exact opposite. And I'm going to pick the team that I picked before the start but got the yips and did not pick in my bracket. I'm going to roll with the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. I just, when I look at them, I just can't say no. They've got the proven star in Jarrett Culver. They've got a fantastic coach in Chris Beard. They play fantastic defense, #1 in the nation, and it's gotten better come tournament time. So if the offense is faltering, you know that the defense can keep them in a game. Just like the first half of Michigan, we saw they were not hitting their shots, yet they were still able to stay in the game because of that lockdown defense. There's just some magic with this Texas Tech team. And they were playing Lil Nas X after the game in that viral video. I just think they've got the swag, they've got the coach, they've got the horses to do it. And I think they're going to get it done. So I have them over Michigan State in that Final Four. In the other game, if I'm picking with my heart, I might as well just go Auburn just because that's the final I want to see. And I think that when a team gets hot from 3, it tends to keep on going, like with Villanova last year.
Right.
And I think that this Auburn team has the belief to make it past a Virginia team that hasn't really been here before and has struggled down the stretch in some of these games. Despite that defense, teams have been able to put up some points against them. So I've got Auburn, Texas Tech in a meeting of newbies in the final, and I've got Texas Tech coming out on top, cutting down the net, winning their first ever national championship.
Should be a good one.
Those are some interesting calls.
I don't know if you can pick a winner here. You can go
Yeah,
for, what do you think, Haley? Do you have a favorite here as we get to the Final Four?
I mean, I have a feeling experience is going to come into it, and I was thinking Michigan State, Virginia, actually.
Okay.
I don't know who's going to win out of that.
We're gonna have a good weekend.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
gonna.
there'll be some fun
I don't know
games
if
to
I can
watch.
pick, but
Okay.
I think that's who I'm going to think is going to be in the final.
It's really, there's no clear winner, which is going to make it even more entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be one interesting rest of the tournament. Well, that's all we have for you guys. Thanks for watching. Tune in again. Remember to have a great sports night.